Hello everyone and welcome to part 27 of my F1 22 driver career mode here for the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. Last time out we were in Silverstone where we came away with a second place, and Pierre Gasly in the Red Bull finally got his first race win for the senior Red Bull team there after so much pain for him so far this season. He's had the pace the whole time since the first round of the season, but unfortunately just not the luck that he needed. So heading into Monza this time out, we lead the championship by a nice margin over Fernando Alonso in second. Verstappen's in third. Gasly got himself up into P5. And Russell still struggling this season, down in P6. We lead the constructors, but not a massive gap over Red Bull. And so if we keep having weekends like we have been with Red Bull being very dominant up the front, then we could very quickly lose our constructors leading. And so heading into this round, we bring a minor upgrade, but Red Bull have bought a massive amount of upgrades. They solidify themselves as the quickest team on the grid at the moment. Ferrari sort of keeping up with them, not as many upgrades, but they have pulled away from us a little bit. For performance, have moved themselves to the top of the midfield there, ahead of the likes of Alpine. So it'll be interesting to see how they go around the Temple of Speed here. But yeah, final round of the European stint of the season before we head to the 3 Middle Eastern rounds. And so yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how the sort of cars change heading into those last 3 rounds with different track conditions and surfaces and things like that. So around here should be a very, very interesting race, as it always seems to be in these career modes. With just so much DRS and slipstreaming, there's normally quite a few good battles. We are taking a full new engine heading into this one because we weren't going to make it to the end of the season without needing some engine changes. So yeah, let's get now to the grid rundown for the Italian Grand Prix.
It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and it's Pierre Gasly in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Fernando Alonso, Norris, Sergio Perez, and Russell, Magnussen, Leclerc, Hamilton, and Esteban Ocon, Ricciardo, Tsunoda, Carlos Sainz, and Joe, Mick Schumacher, Schwartzman, Lance Stroll, and Nicholas Latifi. Albon, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Benjamin. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
Okay, now that we've got some good points on the board, let's continue this form and aim for another top 10 finish.
So here we are lining up P20 on the grid at Monza, dead last. It should be a fun race trying to make our way back up into the points. It was a good round to do it because plenty of overtaking opportunities around here at Monza, and we also have a comfortable championship lead that we can fall back on if we're not able to get as far up the field as we were hoping. But hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully we can get ourselves some good points and at the very least limit the damage that'll be done to us by our main competitors, who are all starting right up the front of the field. No one that we really are racing against has got any engine penalties heading into this one, and so hopefully yeah, we can limit the damage, but also potentially gain an advantage in the later rounds of the season should they be taking penalties at those stages where it's a bit harder to overtake. But either way, we're sitting on the grid. It's 5 red lights and we are underway for the Italian Grand Prix. It's not the best start, I must admit. We're still getting wheel spin even in 4th gear and everyone is just gone. However, this is Monza, and so as we head into the turn 1-2 chicane, we should pretty easily close up to people here. As you can see, haven't actually really checked up to not run up the back of anyone. We end up 3 wide into turn 1 anyway. We're going to go around the outside of a couple of slower cars there, make a little bit of contact with Lance Stroll, which we get a warning for. Schwartzman gets ahead of us there in the traction zone, but for now, we come out of turn 2 in P17, so we've made up 3 spots there straight away, and now we are looking to make a move on the Aston Martin as we go to the inside now of the Ascari chicane. He goes defensive, so we'll go around the outside. Latifi locks up. That's another free position for us there from the Alfa Romeo, and so by the end of the first lap here, we find ourselves in P15, already 5 places up from where we started, so a very, very nice start to the Grand Prix after a pretty poor getaway from the line. But luckily, yeah, we are able to find ourselves some critical positions, and now we just got to look to try and move forward as we have some cars racing throughout the field. That's Leclerc and Russell both into the pit lane. I'm guessing they've made contact with each other and have damage, and that's going to completely ruin their race here already at the end of the first lap. So that's us up into P13 now. We got some more crazy racing happening up ahead. Hamilton trying to defend from Mick Schumacher in the Haas, but it looks like the Haas may have the better run out of turn 2. They're also going to be fighting for the slipstream from Ricciardo, and Schumacher almost gets the move done there. The McLaren trying to hang it around the outside of Curva Grande there, and Hamilton actually has done it. This is for the final points-paying position. Hamilton down the inside of the chicane. Schumacher will have the inside for the second part, but the McLaren is ahead for now of the Haas, who now finds himself defending from his teammate Yuki Tsunoda. Meanwhile, further back, we're still sitting just behind in P13, looking for a way through on the two McDonald's Haas cars. And we're already very, very close to some points-paying positions here already on lap number 2. As you can see, a great speed on Yuki Tsunoda. We're going to look to the outside, similar move to what we made on Schwartzman just a lap ago here into the Ascari chicane. We're also in the slipstream of Schumacher. We get the move done there. Tsunoda doesn't put up too much of a fight, which is nice, and that is us up into P12 now as we head on to lap number 3. We're already all over the back of the other Haas of Schumacher down the main straight using our ERS in the slipstream. He's going to go a little defensive, so we'll look to the outside of turn 1. We've got Albon and Tsunoda battling just behind us as well. So as I said, lots of racing and overtaking opportunities around here at the Temple of Speed, and that is the move into P11 completed there on the Haas, and further back Tsunoda did defend from Alex Albon, but for now, we are only one spot away from a points-paying position. Looking up further ahead, though, Zhou Guanyu doing very well in the Alfa Romeo to be up in P6, but it is an engine failure, or at least some sort of technical failure there for the Alfa Romeo, and so you can see he pulls over to the inside there, going very, very slowly as we make our way past now into P10, into the points here. But by the end of lap 3, a very, very, very good start to the race for ourselves there, but it is super unfortunate for Zhou to have been slowing down. He's actually caused a bit of chaos here. He's backed a couple cars up into each other, and so now Albon back all over the rear of that Haas car. He'll look to the outside of turn 1. Is he able to get it done in the braking zone? Not quite. They'll keep it side by side. Tsunoda will have the outside of turn 2, which means he'll have the better traction out of the corner, and for now keeps it ahead of the Williams. The two Aston Martins were also battling away there for P14 and 15 now. Meanwhile, looking back up towards our battle, we are right in behind Hamilton, who himself is all over the back of Ricciardo. However, we got a great exit out of Parabolica there, so we're going to look to the outside as we head down the main straight. Can we maybe go for a double move? We're ahead of Hamilton. Can we get Ricciardo? He goes sort of a bit middle of the road there, and so unfortunately I just sort of have to back out of it under brakes. Ocon's made a mistake up ahead, battling away with Kevin Magnussen, so Ricciardo gets through on the Alpine there, up into P7, and for now we stay in P9. But yeah, very, very good race so far now on lap number 6, looking for a move on the Alpine. We're going to look to the inside of the Ascari chicane. We've made a move on the outside every time so far, so this is a bit of a new move here for us, but we do get the move done either way on the Alpine. Up into P8 now, looking a bit further up, just half a lap later on lap 7, the two Ford cars battling away with each other into turn 1. Ricciardo with a DRS on his teammate Magnussen. He's going to look to the outside of turn 1, almost gets the move done there. Magnussen will have the outside for turn 2, like we've seen a couple times already this race. And so he gets the better exit there, and in the end he does get the move done on Ricciardo. Although Ricciardo trying to keep his nose there around Curva Grande, but in the end he does have to back out of it. You can see I'm also trying to find a way through here on the two Ford cars because of these guys battling. They've slowed each other down right into my path as we're still here on lap number 7, all over the back of our fellow Aussie. He goes defensive heading towards the final corner. So with the help of a bit of ERS, we're going to look to the outside line of Parabolica. We let him go there, braking nice and early so we can go for a textbook switchback. Look at that at the inside on the exit of Parabolica, and that is the move up into P7 done for us. So we'll also have DRS now as we close in on Kevin Magnussen. Unfortunately, we just weren't quite close enough to get the move done there as we now go to lap 9. We'll look at an order check. Max Verstappen leading the way for Red Bull. It's a Red Bull 1-2 as well with Pierre Gasly just coming fresh off of his first race win for the team in P2. Just over a second off his teammate, so he can close down a little bit. He'll be able to get into a nice battle with Verstappen for the win. It's then Alonso trying to do Ferrari proud in P3 there at their home race. Perez again doing very well in the Alpine in P4, just ahead of Lando Norris in P5 for McLaren. Perez has been doing so well this season in that Alpine, getting consistently up there. Then it is Magnussen in 6th, leading this big train of cars battling away for position. It's ourselves in 7th, Ricciardo in the other Ford in 8th, Ocon in the Alpine in P9, and then Schumacher actually rounds out the points in P10. So Schumacher's found a way past Lewis Hamilton as well Hamilton started the season off strong, but just compared to Lando as the season's gone further on, he's been falling further and further back. Meanwhile, looking right down the field, Leclerc and Russell are way back, and they're both going to have to make another pit stop in this race, so they'll be counting on a safety car if they want to have any sort of chance of getting points in this Grand Prix. Now, looking to the end of lap number 9, we're all over the back of Kevin Magnussen. We've actually set a purple first sector at the start of this lap, so we're absolutely flying at this stage. We're going to pull up alongside with the help of DRS and ERS. It's not even really a competition. We get ourselves ahead of the Ford heading on to lap number 10. And yeah, now we've got to try and set our eyes forward to the 8-second margin we have to Norris and Perez up ahead. And I don't know how possible that'll be in this Grand Prix. I don't know if our pace is that strong, but we can certainly give it a go. Looking a bit further back though, Ricciardo finds himself under attack from the Alpine of Esteban Ocon. He's going to have the inside line. These guys in a bit of a midfield battle, Ford and Alpine. If you remember back to the performance chart at the start of the video, they are very close to each other in terms of performance. So good to see these guys battling away. Ricciardo, though, pulls himself back up alongside the Alpine here as they head into turn 1, and he'll have the outside for turn 2, which means he should get the better run out of the corner. Yes, he does. He pulls himself back up in a P8 for now, ahead of Ocon, but that has allowed Hamilton to get a bit closer to the Alpine to potentially try and get himself a bit further up in the points. However, at the end of lap 12, we come into the pit lane for what should hopefully be our one and only stop of the race from the medium compound tyre onto the hard compound tyre, and we also have to hope we don't get held up. Not many cars have come into the pit lane this time out. We get ever so slightly held up, but nothing massive there. And we are out into the lane in relatively clean air here. There were a couple of cars that came into the pit lane, but nothing much. As we've sort of seen so far this season, we tend to come in about a lap earlier than the majority of the field and get a nice undercut. You can see we actually come out just behind our teammate Russell. That just goes to show how big the gap is to Russell in this race after he had to make that early pit stop. We've got an entire pit stop distance on him here. However, on lap 13, Lance Stroll spins it through the Ascari chicane, almost hits Perez, and Perez actually pulling over with an engine failure. So very, very coincidental there. I did go through and make sure there wasn't any contact between them. It was just a pure coincidence that as Perez passed the spun Aston Martin, he managed to get an engine failure there. And so he's going to pull over to the side of the road here just before Parabolica and retire from the Grand Prix. That's an extra free position for ourselves in this Grand Prix. If you remember, he was in the battle for P4, P5, and so that gets us those extra crucial points so far in this Grand Prix. On lap 14, though, you can see here, Magnussen actually exits the pit lane ahead of us, so it looks like the overcut is potentially at least quicker to begin with, as Magnussen has caught right up to us there and was actually ahead of us as he exited the pit lane. But hopefully now on these warmer tyres, we were able to pull away. However, looking a bit further up, Pierre Gasly exiting the pit lane. Remember, he was behind his teammate before all these pit stops happened. But where is Max now? He's all the way back there, so the overcuts worked massive wonders for Pierre Gasly, as he now finds himself once again in the race lead, vying for his second race win in a row for Red Bull, which would be a very, very incredible thing to see happen there for the young Frenchman who is making sort of his comeback tour at Red Bull. He was at Red Bull, remember, earlier on. He then got demoted back to AlphaTauri Toro Rosso, and he is now back up to Red Bull again, doing very well in what he would have been hoping to do his first time round at the senior team. Meanwhile, we now find ourselves in P5 with Magnussen still all over the back of us. And so this battle for 5th place could very well see us to the end of the race. Now looking a bit further down the field, looking for the last couple of points paying positions here for P9 and P10. Esteban Ocon and the Alpine battling away with Mick Schumacher in the Haas there. He gets the move done down the main straight. In fact, he gets it done enough that he can get back ahead in the braking zone, but it was a mistake there for the Alpine that then cost him the position straight away there. And so I imagine Ocon will not be very happy with himself for making that little blunder as Schumacher gets himself back into P9 for now, but I'm sure that battle will continue a bit further on. You can see Gasly actually sets the fastest lap of the race there, so it wasn't even pure luck that he got himself back ahead of Verstappen. He is very, very quick on his own merit. Now looking a bit further up ahead here onto lap 18, Hamilton and Ricciardo battling away with each other for P7 and P8, so battles all the way throughout the field here at Monza, which is why it is such a good race in the F1 game at least. So many overtakes getting done every single lap, it seems like, in this game. But looking a bit further back, it's actually Yuki Tsunoda in the Haas. He wasn't even in the points there, but he must have just pushed himself a little too hard trying to catch up to that battle with Ocon and Schumacher, and so he spun to turn 2 and now finds himself right down in P17 and out of contention for any sort of points in this race. Russell in P15. having just got himself ahead of Nicholas Latifi. However, Leclerc all the way up in P11 and only about 2.5 seconds off of the points-paying position. So this is what I've been saying this whole season. Russell just doesn't have the pace that he should have in this Mercedes. The last season and season 1, he was very quick. He was very good. And so I was hoping heading into this season, the two of us could do a very, very strong charge to try and get a Drivers' and Constructors' Championship with Mercedes. But, well, Russell has spent this entire race just trying to get himself back on a P15. Charles Leclerc now finds himself in the battle to get himself back into the points. He goes alongside Mick Schumacher in the Haas there, both Ferrari-powered cars. But the main Ferrari going to go around the outside of the Ascari chicane, as we've seen been done a couple times around here in this race so far, and Leclerc does get himself into the points. Meanwhile, George Russell battling to get himself into P14 with Lance Stroll. As I was just saying, just the difference is insane. Leclerc and Russell were in the pit lane together, remember? And now look at the massive gap between them. As Leclerc's in the points, Russell is battling away with an Aston Martin for P14, P15. As Leclerc already all over the back of the Alpine. He just got that move done on Schumacher. And now he's going to get a move done on Esteban Ocon to get himself up into P9. And it's only another couple seconds from there to the battle between Hamilton and Ricciardo. Unfortunately there, for the Ferrari, he hasn't quite positioned himself properly. And so Ocon is back ahead. However, Leclerc has the pace to get ahead of Ocon. And I'm sure he'll get that done very, very shortly as we now cut to lap 24. Hamilton once again having a go at Daniel Ricciardo. These guys have been going at it for so long now for this P7, P8 position. You can see Leclerc is the next car ahead, so he has gotten himself ahead of Ocon and is chasing this battle down. And the more these guys go at it, the quicker Leclerc will catch them, as Hamilton does get the move done there on the Ford for now. And so heading on to lap 25, Leclerc has closed up to the back of Daniel Ricciardo. He's going to look to the inside of turn 1. Ricciardo does have the advantage of having the slipstream on Hamilton. Hamilton goes defensive, he sees them coming, and so now is Ford versus McLaren once again here into turn 1. Leclerc has to bide his time and just sit behind this battle. Hamilton gets keeps it defensive there on Daniel Ricciardo, and so for now Hamilton holds on to his P7, Ricciardo 8th, Leclerc still in P9. He's all over the back of the Ford though, looking for a way through. He's going to try and force a move here into the second chicane on the lap, and he might actually get it done, you know. He does. Very good move from Leclerc. Ricciardo's actually decided to keep his nose in there for now, but heading into the Lesmos, are they going to keep it side by side? Yes, they are, and Ricciardo actually gets the move done back on the Ferrari. A very, very good tussle between these guys, but you can see all of that has allowed Hamilton to pull a nearly 2-second gap. And so now, Ricciardo does not have the DRS. Leclerc does. He's going to look to the outside of the Ascari chicane. This battle's allowed Schumacher and Ocon to catch up. And Leclerc gets the move done into P8. He's now got just over 2 laps to try and close down Hamilton. I don't know if his pace is quite that good, but he's certainly going to give it a red-hot go, I'd imagine. Now, looking further back, though, because of all this battling going on, Ocon and Schumacher looking for a way through on the Ford. They're going to end up side by side with each other just behind Ricciardo. Ocon slots back in to P10, so this three-way battle for the final 2 points paying position. So one of these guys will miss out here. It's a DRS for all of them, so Ricciardo was just about close enough to get the DRS off Leclerc. However, it's not enough to hold off the Alpine here. Ocon to the inside of turn 1. They'll go side by side through the chicane. Ocon with the better run out of turn 2 should get the position over Daniel Ricciardo, and he does, but we don't know how that battle could end up. Ricciardo could very well find his way through on this lap, and then obviously later on the last lap as well. But as we come around now to the very end of the race, Pierre Gasly has got the race win there for himself and for Red Bull. It's 2 race wins in a row for the Frenchman. Very, very good to see the pace for him. Meanwhile, it is a very, very good recovery drive from ourselves to finish in P5 here at Monza.
And that's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
So, another fantastic victory for Red Bull today. Talk to me, Ant. What was it that set them apart from the competition today?
I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out on track was: speed. I know it sounds like an awfully reductive statement, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
Red Bull are our winners today after showcasing some incredible driving. There's been a huge push from them lately to stay competitive with the other teams, and they're certainly proving themselves.
So here we are with the results for the Italian Grand Prix. Pierre Gasly gets the race win for Red Bull, 1.2 seconds ahead of his teammate Verstappen, who I'm sure will have words to say after that pit strategy that he was put on very clearly didn't work. Fernando Alonso in the Ferrari rounds out the podium, so I'm sure the Tifosi aren't super unhappy with the fact that they at least got a car up there on the podium to celebrate. Lando Norris doing very well for McLaren in P4. Ourselves, as I said, I'm very proud of that recovery drive to have gotten out all the way up to P5. It was a very good first opening few laps there to go halfway through the field. Immediately, Russell doesn't even score points in the end there. Very disappointing to see, unfortunately. You can see we have a 26-point lead over Alonso, so the gap to the lead has come down a bit. But for now, at least we can go into Bahrain with a comfortable margin that we know we will still at least leave that round leading the championship. Gasly promotes himself all the way up to P3, so he's actually the lead Red Bull driver now in the standings after 2 race wins in a row. And unfortunately, because of Russell's poor performance, we end up moving down to second in the Constructors. Red Bull taking over. They have been very dominant in the second half of this season and are the quickest car at the moment with a very strong driver combination. So it's going to take a lot of work, and hopefully Russell can step himself up to actually try and get that Constructor win. Obviously, this is a driver career mode, so the main focus is for ourselves and for the Drivers' Championship. But it would be very nice to try and win a Constructors as well with the team. You can see Ford also, not a bad round for them. They move themselves ahead of Alpine by just 1 point. So very close margins all throughout the Drivers' and Constructors' championships. And a lot to look forward to now heading into the final stint of the season for the 3 Middle Eastern rounds in Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and Abu Dhabi. So yeah, if you guys have enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future. And I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.